Hey everybody, welcome to This Old Trike, a year in review, and what a year it has been. 2021. We did a number of things this year, and I've got a lot of notes here that I'm going to share with you, and we're just going to walk through month by month what happened. When this year started, I lacked 10 machines to complete my collection. And what is my collection? That is one of each Honda model, year, and color sold across the world. That's 77 variations. And when we started, I lacked 10 of those 77 variations. 6 of them were US 90s of various colors. The other 4, those models, 2 of which were sold in the US, 2 were non-US models. So outside of the 6 US 90s, we lacked a 1981 ATC 200. We lacked the 1985 ATC 200M. And then we lacked the 1985 ATC 200 ES Big Red that most people don't even know exists. And then a 1988 ATC 250 ES Big Red, depending on where you're located. Those could also be a Super Red. But that's how we started this year. At the beginning of January 2021, we took delivery of a 200X powered go-kart that I had gotten from a gentleman named Ken Parrot down in New Jersey. Great guy, great collector also. And that was, I bought that in December, but it was delivered by my good buddy Kyle Vollers at the beginning of January. I believe that was New Year's Day. So 1 year ago today, we took possession of that 200X, 1986 200X powered go-kart. Pretty neat little machine that I barely fit into. After that, we got off to the races, checking off the few models I lacked. We bought a 1985 ATC 200M, and that rounded up our 1985 ATC lineup, with the exception of that 200 ES Big Red that is sold outside the US. So for the domestic 1985 lineup, that was complete. And then it wasn't long after that my good buddy Derek Walters, I think this actually happened in the fall, he let me know of a 1972 US 90 in Mighty Green that was available potentially. He acquired that on behalf of myself and picked it up for me and delivered it. Nope, he didn't deliver. I went out and visited him. I feel like I brought him something, but I can't remember. Balloon tires, the whole 9, and that actually started him down a path of wanting one. But thank you very much, Derek, for helping me out with that. Later that month, my good friend Vinny Staffa helped me acquire a 1984 Big Red 200 ES and a 1987 200X. So those came out of Connecticut. I had to go down to the Bread Mansion to pick those up. I didn't get there soon enough. My good buddy Vinny decided to do some donuts with that 200X on the concrete. It's fine. Just OEM tires, just doing donuts on concrete, whatever, no big deal. And then I turned a 1986 ATC 250R that I had gotten from my good buddy Toby. I turned that into a blue 250R. It had kind of been customized already, so put some blue fenders on it, and it came out looking really sharp. And even Bernie Sanders approved of that one. So that was January. Moving on. February. Let's see, the first thing I did that month was I tracked down locally a speedometer setup, a Speedo, for a 250 ES Big Red. Of note, in February, PJ Hart's Ghetto Pony was featured in Dirt Wheels magazine. They were afraid to say Ghetto Pony, but I'm not, so it is a beautiful three-wheeler that we're going to mention later on. Again, Derek Walters, my good buddy, he bought the Big Red, the 84 that I had got from Vinny Staffa. That came with a snowplow on it, actually. So Derek bought that for his dad because that's the machine that he grew up riding, much like myself. That'll turn up here later. I think the next month we'll talk more about that. But I sold that to Derek. Derek actually had to make a trip to Michigan to pick up a three-wheeler. And while he was on his way, I let him know of a 1971 Parrot green US 90 that I had purchased back in September from good old Andy Stoller down there in Ohio. And my good buddy Greg Jr. had picked it up from Andy, brought it to his place in Ohio. And Derek happened to be going through and picked up that machine for me and brought it home. So that added another balloon tire 90 to the collection. I think that was already factored in, so that wasn't one of the 6 I was missing. I bought some studded tires for my TPC, the conversion I own, and I wanted to race that out on the ice. I had them mounted up and went out next town over for mine and raced that out on the ice, and that was doing awesome for about 40 minutes until I crashed into my good buddy Aaron. We were hot rodding. We neither of us made this one particular corner. I hit the ice very hard and found out what it's like to separate your shoulders, which is a very common 3-wheeler injury. It's not a broken collarbone, but it is blown out ligaments. So if you ever wonder why I'm a little puffed up here, that's why. And that month is the month I decided I was going to make YouTube videos. My buddy Vinny had started making videos of his own. I liked the idea. So I figured I'd be cool like my buddy Vinny and make some YouTube videos, but then he stopped, so that was kind of lame. But the show goes on, and here we are, 10 months later, still making videos. That first video was about giving my 1985 250R facelift. That's the machine I bought back in 1997 that I still own, and it is still in progress. So stay tuned for an update on that very soon. I bought a big bunch of parts from a nice Canadian guy named Lucas, which included a new old stock Honda fairing, a bunch of other cool new old stock parts, and had that shipped down from Canada. I put freshly powder coated rims on the back and front of my 125M, my 1986, one of those, and a powder coated rack. My daughter helped me out with that, and we gave that a little facelift. I think that was maybe my second YouTube video. I went on to tear down my white 85 250R, officially kicking off that project, and more updates on that to come. And then we found ourselves in March. I bought this cool 1964 license plate because my buddy Vinny told me to. It's pretty neat, ATC 77. We dropped off the baby blue frame for my 85 250R project to be powder coated. I decided I was going to turn that back to red, the factory red color. I went on to rent a U-Haul trailer for a little adventure we had coming up. My buddy Donnie Bizall and I hopped in the truck, went down to visit another friend, Ben Roberts, down in Pennsylvania, who was selling me 2 US 90s, so we're checking a few more boxes off that list. Well, actually, prior to that, we picked up a Kick and Go 2 from our good friend Joe Whalen down in Poughkeepsie. Joe's always coming up with the good stuff. And then Donnie and I drove over to Chad Bennett's house in New Jersey. Chad was giving me a great deal on an 85 and an 86 ATC 250R. Not every day you get to buy 2 nice examples of those in the same day. But they were very, very nice machines, and I was happy to help him out with freeing up some space in his garage. So we dragged those home. As the US 90 collection was rounding itself out, I felt compelled to line them up for a snowy US 90 photo shoot. Spring was in the air, the snow was starting to melt. I was very excited about that. And then a big thing happened, like big, like a thing I didn't think was gonna happen. There was an eBay auction for a 1988 Big Red in England. And I'd been watching it, and the price was a lot less than I thought it was going to be. And it got down to like the last 30 minutes, and I was watching my phone, and long story short, it got down to the wire. I won the bid and had to figure out shipping, but ended up landing this 1988 Big Red from England, and my hands were shaking. I was so excited. So that was a big fat checkbox on that list. So that was just step 1 of the process. Like I said, then I had to figure out how to get it home. So that happened later on. But the baby blue frame turned red, so that was powder coated and came home. I did my first comparison video, a 86 to 85, 86 250R comparison video. So that's still up. Make sure you check that out. Then me and Donnie, we took an adventure over to Vermont to visit my friends, the father-son duo, the Lincolns. They have a nice collection, three-wheeler collection over there. They bought one of the 250Rs that I got from my buddy Chad, and my old 87 200X that actually came from Benke. I delivered that to them because I was also purchasing a 1972 US 90 in, no, not 73, I misspoke, US 90 in mighty green from them. So we went over, we checked out their collection, we did a little swapsies. They got their new machines, I got mine, and I was very happy to do that. So that was another checkbox off the list. And I got this air compressor, this used air compressor from work to be placed in my shop to help us with future sandblasting and other needs. My buddy Derek sold me this US 90 air pump. We did a little trade on some tires. And he also brought back that Big Red because it turns out his dad did not care that he had bought a 1984 Big Red for him. No sentimental value there. So we traded the tires for the pump, and we did a trade on the 1974 US 90 that had some aluminum wheels on it. So he bought that. I got the Big Red back, and we closed out the month by what was making my most popular video so far, How to Hoard Hondas, which is just me doing a voiceover on a bunch of pictures. So it boggles my mind that everybody wants to watch that, but if they want to watch it, they can watch it. And then there was April. April showers bring May flowers, but they also brought this 1981 ATC 200 no letter. Purchased that with the help of my cousin Maria out in Syracuse. Thank you very much, cuz. She bought it on my behalf. I couldn't get out there to pick it up when the seller had it, and I could tell it wasn't going to last long, so she grabbed it for me. I drove out and picked it from her the following Monday, I guess. And then something else funny happened. I got banned from Facebook Marketplace. I think what happened, I was trying to sell about 7 swing arms all in one rip, and I feel like they thought I was trying to sell some weapons, and that wasn't the case. But that lasted for 3 or 4 months, but didn't slow me down. The hoarding must go on. I made a 1985, 1986 350X comparison video that is still up. Make sure you check that out. Went on a trip up Buck Mountain with my good buddy Jim and Mike. We were all on 350Xs. It was a great day. That's one of my favorite rides, and captured a lot of good riding footage that day, so make sure you check that out. I bought this cool Christmas special Honda sign, Honda Chiclet sign. I went down to Connecticut. Kevin down there sold that to me, and I got a great price on it because it had a spelling error on it. So I'm not sure there's any way to fix that, but I was happy to bring it home. I helped my buddy Mike out. Mike is a good buddy of mine out near Buffalo. He's picked up machines for me in the past and has continued to do so, but he found this Honda Nighthawk near me, so I grabbed that for him and stored it until he could come pick it up. It was a Honda, so I was happy with that. And then a pretty neat thing happened. This woman reached out to me. Her name's Jackie. Out of the blue, I don't know Jackie from anybody. She told me she had just been dating a guy, a new boyfriend named Greg, who turns out was into three-wheelers. And Greg had showed Jackie a picture of my collection that was in Dirt Wheels magazine, and she made a mental note, tracked me down on Facebook, and asked if I ever show my collection. She wanted to, they live not far away, so she wanted to surprise Greg with showing him my collection if I was up for it. And I said, Jackie, you are awesome, let's do it, but let's wait till it's a little bit warmer. So this was back actually around February when she reached out, but back in April is when we lined everything up. I was pulling things out of hibernation. We put a big spread on for Greg, and he was very surprised. It was pretty awesome. So I was glad to help them out with that. And I think it was that same day I had all the machines out, so I felt like it was a good day to bring out all the Big Reds and do a Big Red comparison video out on the front lawn. So that is actually, I think, my #2 most popular video. So if you haven't watched it yet, you really should. And then May came. And that 1981 ATC 200 that my cousin helped me pick up. You know what happened? A nicer one turned up. It took me forever to even find one, and then 2 months back to back, one turned up and then a nicer one. This one was down in Rhode Island. My good buddy Louis Rigo had it for sale. We worked out a deal and I drove down to pick that up one day before work, which is a good time to buy three-wheelers. You can get out early, pick them up before work. And then my buddy Derek, who I've mentioned a couple times, he sold another buddy, Greg, from New Hampshire, a really nice 91 250X. I'm not really the middle, but they agreed to meet at my place and do the exchange. Lyndon is always Greg's co-pilot, so he was out there too. Great guys, and there were no casualties while loading this, even though I was photographing just in case. And I wheeled the TPC in my shop because enough time had gone by since I crashed it to work on it a little bit. I bought a new grab bar and I pounded the subframe back in submission so we could mount that new grab bar. I was still banned from Marketplace. And I taught you how to freak out your neighbors that month. And then June was a big month, page and a half here. Let's get started. My buddy Mike in June brought me a summer yellow 1971 US 90. So another checkbox off the list. He had picked that up from a guy that I met online who had it for sale out near Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I posted this 1985 ATC 250R for sale because I got a lead on a little bit nicer one down in Texas. So I arranged for shipping on that and posted the other one up for sale. The 88 Big Red had come into port. Had to drive down to New Jersey to pick that up, so that was an interesting time and it made for a great video. On that same trip, while I was down there, a 1984 TRX 200 four-wheeler presented itself to me, and that was one of the machines I grew up riding, so I have a soft spot for those. So I made a little detour on the way back and picked that up. And that's a neat trip because the 88 Big Red is the last three-wheeler that Honda made, and the 84 TRX 200 is the first four-wheeler that Honda ever made. So picked them both up in one trip, and I've got some plans for a little video on that four-wheeler coming up, so stay tuned for that. And make sure you like and subscribe. I haven't mentioned that yet, so make sure you do. You don't want to miss anything. Mid-month, that 250R had sold, and I had made arrangements to bring it to the gentleman who purchased it. I had also sold the first 81 ATC 200 that I had bought. Both those guys were from New Hampshire, were thereabouts. So I went out to bring the machines to them because a good buddy, John, had acquired an Aquarius Blue 1971 US 90s. This was the last machine that I needed to check off the list of all US models. So if you weren't keeping track, that was 9 machines that I needed to check off that I got that year. So all US variations have been accounted for. There's one left, the 1985 ATC 200 ES Big Red. I've got a lead on one, but it's not in the States. So we're waiting to see what happens with that. But I drove out to John's house, brought those 2 machines with me, brought the 91 or the 71 Aquarius Blue 90 home, which had a new old stock gas tank with it. We did a little facelift on that. That happened later. But that was a nice, it was like a swap meet over it there. We had 3 people coming and going and trikes moving and shaking. The 250R I bought from the guy in Texas finally showed up, got delivered to me at work. They weren't surprised. Nobody at work is surprised by that stuff anymore. Maybe like 3 years ago, that would have been like, what are you doing? But now it's just common. I was starting to gear up for Trike Fest because Trike Fest happens at the end of June, so this was a real big month. I put a wide desert-style grab bar on my 350X from ATD ATC. Great bars. Reach out to them, Craig Burton, if you need anything. I was pressuring Vinny Staffa to come to Trike Fest to take a break from a side gig of cat photography, but he wasn't having it. My buddy Derek and I made the trip down to Haspin Acres in Laurel, Indiana. Just him and I. Trike Fest is a blast. You should go if you've never been. My buddy Derek, PJ, and Kim We went on lots of rides together. We camped near each other. There's a ton of people there, but you kind of end up gravitating towards some. Watch all my Trike Fest videos if you wonder what it's like. There's a number of them. But what was funny is my good buddy Vinny ended up surprising me. He caught a plane and flew to Indiana, rented a car, showed up at Trike Fest, much to my surprise, and made me pound 5 beers. And that was pretty funny. It was like I was back in my fraternity days, but we had we had jokingly made an agreement that he held me to. And what's funny is he proceeded to buy a 350X, actually 2, and sunk both of them in the closest mud hole that he possibly could and sold them before he left. And nobody cared that I brought an 88 Big Red from England to Trike Fest. Like 0 people cared. You know what they cared about? PJ Hart and the Ghetto Pony. They went past the imported 88 Big Red to look at the sparkly ATC 70, which is fine. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I bought these 2 blue 110s. One's an 83, one's an 84 from Tyler Mayfield. He gave me a hell of a deal, and I appreciate that. Picked them up at Trike Fest. I bought them earlier in the spring, but that's when I took delivery of them. And one has a blue Honda line fairing. Have you ever seen a blue Honda line fairing? I haven't. July, halfway through the year. We put together a pretty nasty, freedom-loving 3-wheeler parade float. Me and a bunch of buddies put 17 of my 3-wheelers in my town's Independence Day parade. And we've got a very small town, so it's kind of a big deal. And I've been wanting to do this for a couple years, and it finally happened. We had 4 US 90s on my truck. We had 4 of my nicest 86 model ATCs on the trailer with our kids. And there were 9 Big Reds and 250 SXs behind with a bunch of my buddies driving them with a couple Honda trailers in there. It was a spectacle to behold, and we threw lots of candy. July was the month that I hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. I can't believe it. I think we're floating around 2,700 right now, and I thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'm amazed that there's as many people as there are wanting to watch what I've got to say on 3-wheelers. But very big milestone. Switched my Instagram handle over to This Old Trike from my former name of Great Sacandaga, which is the lake I live on. I'd mounted cheetah tires on the rims of my 250R project. I'd mounted a new old stock rack on my 86 200S and put some decals on my Christmas special. Nice video on that. My buddy Ben came to visit from Pennsylvania. He stayed a couple days with us. He picked up a machine I dragged home from Trike Fest for him, and he helped me get that blue fairing mounted back on the 84 blue 110 that I purchased. And I made a little blue Honda video about a great debate that goes on that I won't talk about here. It was at this time we started preparing to get some pavement out to our pole barn, something I'd wanted for a long time. I poured these concrete bases for the gas pumps and that we have out there. And the company doing the paving came and prepped all the areas, and paving happened in August. Right after that, I rolled that blue 90 that I purchased from John out in New Hampshire. Put that in the shop. I did a little facelift on that, installed a new old stock tank, got a bunch of stuff from like Palmgren, like some new reproduction fenders and seats, a seat. Did some fresh paint and decals, and it turned out really nice. The next thing on the to-do list was to turn my 1975 90 into a roller. I had purchased this in pieces, and it really needs to be thoroughly gone through, but we'll settle for getting it into a roller status at this point. All my efforts right at this point were going into prepping for the big photo shoot that we had coming up later in the month. So anything that wasn't rolling needed to be at least on 3 wheels for this. I've done that photo shoot for 4 years up to that point. This was going to be the 5th year, and now it was going to be special because I had all the US models in there. I don't have that one, but I really wanted it to be a special day. This Parrot green US 90 wooden roll needed a bunch of tension. Donnie Bizall worked his magic on that and freed it up for the big day. I also put some freshly powder coated wheels and OEM tires on my 87 125M. And I got my white 85 250R back into roller status so it could at least look like something for the big day. I've owned that machine the longest. Last thing I wanted to do was leave it out of the photo shoot. We stayed up till 2 a.m. that night. It was cramming a lot of work into a short amount of time, but we got it done. And then the morning of August 14th happened. That was the big day. About 20 of my best three-wheeler friends showed up. Not Vinny, he's just some guy I know. But about 20 of these crazy three-wheeler people showed up, and we did 3 amazing setups for photos. One was the Honda wing. We made a massive Honda wing out of Hondas. And then we staged everything in my driveway for a driveway full of Hondas shot. And then a lakeside spread of all the Hondas. And my neighbors think I've thoroughly lost it when I do this, but it's kind of a neat thing. And I can't thank everybody enough that helped me that day. I really appreciate it. You guys are the best. And special kudos to my wife, who saw to it that we all had good food and proper munchies for the day. Make sure to watch that video if you haven't seen it. That was produced by my good friend Todd Bailey. I can't take credit for that. You'll notice that video is a lot different than the ones I put together. So Todd, thank you very much. I appreciate you, buddy, and you did an amazing job. The next day I got some sunrise pictures, and then I had the opportunity to record a few comparison videos. I had plans to do a bunch more, but those things pop up and you can't do as much as you want. But I did the balloon tire 90 comparison video, the non-balloon tire 90 comparison video, and then the ATC 70 comparison video. Those all aired later though. Once you get them out, then you got to get them put back away, and that takes a couple days since it's just me and the kids doing it. All the kids play a part and pitch in to some extent, and it's just a process to get them back over to my pole barn and then tucked in, because you got to play, of course, as we know, Trike Tetris to get them put in there, and you can't just wheel them in because they won't fit. And we locked everything up, and that was just in time to have a little vacation. We went down to Myrtle Beach. We saw this cool Odyssey, a nice 85 Odyssey in a surf shop there. Wasn't for sale. And what was funny is we saw this stuff written on the beach. I wasn't expecting to see it, but it was just there. And lo and behold, I saw TJ Smith walking by our pool. I didn't get a chance to talk to him, but he walked right by. On our way back home, we passed through Virginia, and a very special thing happened. We were given the VIP treatment at the Forever ATC collection owned by Binky Tapscott. Binky and his wife spent over 2 hours with my family and I, and hosted us and showed us everything, and there's a video on that. Please watch that. He's a great guy, a big giver, and he just gives of himself, and we were thankful for that. We made a lot of memories there that we'll never forget. Thank you so much, Binky. Then September came. That was a light month. Eased in September by taking my 84 Big Red and Honda Line trailer out for a rip on the property. We finished up the balloon tire 90 comparison video and brought out our 71 Challenger to take some pictures with the 90s with that, since it's period correct. The kids helped me pick out some doors and window for an upcoming shop project. We put together a 200X comparison video, and then we went on a camping trip. We didn't see any Hondas, we didn't buy any Hondas, but we had a good time. And I had a birthday. And just like that, September was over. In October, my wife and I celebrated 17 wonderful years of marriage. That was at the beginning of October. Hondas make her very happy, so it's important that I keep bringing them home so our marriage stays strong. And I hope you guys do the same thing. I made a little video about my TPC. We got that shop project underway. We took out an overhead door and put in a man door and a window, so I don't have to go in and out of an overhead door every time. We built a new interior wall to give me room for some more insulated shop space that we're calling the bonus shop. There was a lot to do to make this happen, so I had to hire in some help to do that, and it's still a work in progress. I hired some licensed electricians to do some electrical work. They did all right. I put together a 250SX comparison video at the end of the month. The seasons were starting to change. It was fall was definitely in the air. And on the last day of the month, I was able to get my new wall stained. November got off to a slow start. We made a little video about my favorite three-wheeler. It was getting close to being too cold to stain anything outside, so I seized the moment when we had some warmer temperatures and spent 6 hours one day staining my barn doors. It was a rainy day. I had to put a tarp over to keep things dry and run a salamander, but they came out looking great. 100% better than they were, but there's still a little bit more trim work to do on those. I started to get the trikes moved around and in place for their winter slumber. This is a multi-day process. It doesn't happen overnight, and you do a little bit at a time. By the end of the month, I got everything in the barn ready for winter, but the enclosed trailer didn't stay in its place very long. A deal popped up. I had to go do some trike shopping. I dragged home these 4 350Xs and an 85 250R. This wasn't long ago, so I'm sure most of you remember this, just last month. Originally, I planned to keep one or two of the 350Xs and let the rest go, but I ended up letting everything go. Once I had time to really evaluate the machines, I decided they weren't really ones I needed. If one had maybe been an 86, I probably would have kept that, but I've got a couple 85s as it is. 2 of the 350Xs got a little facelift in my shop before we cut them loose. You've probably seen those videos. It was fun to bring them back to running, riding condition, and it's always good to see the expression on people's faces when they take a new machine home, new to them. And then we're in December. Started out December shipping a 250 ES motor to my friend Nick in the Netherlands. I'd never shipped a motor before, so why not start by shipping a big heavy motor across the Atlantic internationally to a foreign country. So that was neat. It got there. I learned a lot in the process. There was some damage to the packaging, but not the motor, so that was good. Did a lot of the actual work fixing up the 350Xs we bought the month before in December at the beginning of the month. Those are pretty recent videos, so I'm sure you remember those. We got to go to the wedding of Vinny and Stephanie Staffa. That was very special, a beautiful event. I was honored to be invited and participate in that as a spectator. I wanted to read a speech or give a speech at the wedding, but Vinny said I wasn't allowed. I picked up another Honda line fairing from Vinny though, so I was very happy to do that. Went down to the bread mansion to pick that up. I recorded a bunch of footage while I was there. He's got a lot of nice machines in there, but it turns out I never hit the record button, so I don't have any of that to show for you. We recorded a first and second gen 250R comparison video. I almost fell off the pole barn roof. I fell into another great deal that you probably saw in my last video. My buddy Jim sold me a Big Blue, a 250R, a couple of 90s with a 110, a Grom, and some weirdo 3-wheeled mini truck that I brought home. My daughter named the truck Ryan and has informed me that it is a keeper, so that will be sticking around. Please everybody say hi to Ryan. And in these last few days of the year, I've been trying to finish up a couple of my shop projects that we started back in October. It's a race to get things insulated before it gets super cold out, but that's where we're at. And we ended the month by selling a 1985 125M to its new owner, AJ, and he took it away this morning. And if you're wondering what the stats are, here's the stats. Let's break it down. 2021, we bought 34 machines. That included the mini truck, that included the kick and go. We sold 17 machines. Both those numbers include, selling and buying back the 84 Big Red that went to my buddy Derek. I traveled to 9 different states to pick up machines. I imported 1 machine from England. I made 50 YouTube videos. I crashed 1 machine. I attended 1 Trike Fest. I participated in 1 parade. And we're ending with about 2,700 new subscribers on YouTube. Thank you each and every one for subscribing. I appreciate you sitting through this and watch me. And stay tuned for 2022. Who knows what'll happen. Enjoy.